Everyone, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to another episode of Data Stories, where we explore the nexus between people and data. I'm one of your hosts, Bahija Humphrey, and I'm the CEO of the Data Science Alliance, and I really want to welcome all of you. I want to tell you where the idea for this specific data stories came from. I was frankly getting frustrated because I kept reading article after article about women in data science and even minorities in data science. And it was always just kind of disheartening for me because the numbers show that there's definitely a gap, a gender gap and a sort of ethnic gap in data science. And when I first sort of fell in love with data science, one of the things I loved about it is it's such a growing field, and that it sort of feels like anyone can tackle it and succeed and really just become a powerhouse. And it felt like it's, numbers and math and science and that sort of, there's neutrality there. And so to keep running across that kind of ugly fact, I thought, okay, we got to start a conversation about this, and we need to see if the Data Science Alliance can help. And so recently I attended the University of California, San Diego's Data Science Institute, the Halajalu Data Science Institute. They had sort of like a pre-open house, and they talked about the number of enrollees of students in the Institute, how many were men and women, and all these kinds of fun facts. But they also reiterated the point that some of the recent graduates that are women are having a difficult time entering the workforce. And so that was like that's it moment for me. And so I reached out to a friend and colleague. Her name is Filomena Lamoureux, and she's founder of AIPATH. And I sent her a really quick hot email and said, we've got to do something about this. And what can we do? And let's game plan. And so she agreed to join me, and we're doing a very special data stories today where we are partnering the Data Science Alliance with AIPATH to bring this conversation to you with some very impressive, powerful, and very intelligent women to talk about the reality of this and what can we do about it. So I'm going to introduce Filomena and have her tell you a little bit more about AIPaths, and then we're going to do a quick slideshow just to give you some background, and then we'll get into it with our esteemed guests. Filomena?
Yes, thanks, Bahia. So AIPath is a nonprofit organization committed to bringing underrepresented minorities like people of color, Native Americans, or Hispanic people, as well as women, into data science and AI. And so our mission is really to facilitate getting into the field, but once you're in the field, also sort of succeeding in the field. So really achieving the goals that you have, advancing, if you want, getting into leadership positions and things like that, because the glass ceiling is real, and we have to sort of give that support to change that. Yeah.
Okay, let me pull up a quick slideshow. We'll zip through that, give you all a little bit of background for those of you that haven't learned yet about Data Science Alliance or AIPaths. We'll just give you a little bit more about who we are and really how you can plug in and volunteer or become a member of either organization. So let me share my screen. And then let's do present. Okay. So the Data Science Alliance is a nonprofit committed to advancing the field of data science here in San Diego and really making San Diego a leader in data science. We believe firmly that San Diego has every opportunity to take a leadership role as a city, as a region, and to raise our level of data literacy and the caliber of data science here in San Diego. We have three sort of priorities that we're focused on, and how we approach each changes as the needs of the ecosystem change. But truly, it's about problem solving, because that is what data science is. It's basically kind of digging into a problem through the lens of data science and trying to find solutions. And so as an organization, we want to provide more opportunities to do that, but also tackle some ourselves and connect with some humanitarian efforts and find some really chewy problems and start to take those on and show the power of data science and the chops of San Diego here in the field. Business investment, how do we sort of advance the proliferation of data science across industry, but more specifically across different size organizations and organizations that have not yet adopted it, but also encourage it in startups that both are using it, or startups that are basically data science startups. How do we encourage more of those? And then lastly, talent development. I will say we partner heavily with UCSD's HDSI here, but there's a lot we can do. We sort of bridge the gap between talent and industry and try to become this sort of conduit between the two. And we're having conversations with some of the other universities in San Diego about stepping into the data science field and some of the coursework that they're offering or will be offering. So we're happy to sort of promote and advance that and help them bring that offering to their students. To succeed in everything we do, it takes community, and that is the heart of Data Science Alliance. So if you'd like, you can learn more about us by following us on any of those channels that you see on your screen. You can also just go on our website, datasciencealliance.org. We have a community page that'll teach you a little bit more about sort of how to engage. You can engage as a volunteer, or you can support us through membership, and we have some great benefits that we offer for you in that respect. And then now I'm going to pass it to Filomena to talk about AIPATHs.
Yes, thank you. So as mentioned before, I think the problem is pretty clear. So AIPATH is really sort of seeking solutions, how to sort of help to mitigate the imbalances in workforce. And so you can join our platform to support others or get help to get into AI or data science. And we have a 3-pillar program, including resources, workshops, and mentoring. You can connect with other peers, you can participate in hands-on workshops, and we have a high-level organization of technically relevant topics. So say if you're a beginner and you want to get into data science, it's hard to know where you want to start. So we sort of made a high-level step-by-step guide on what topics to look into first to make sure that you really focus your resources, your precious time and other resources to learn what really matters. So we do this together with a lot of other talented AI scientists and data scientists who have already succeeded in the field and have that high-level overview that you only get once you are an expert. We can show you how to craft a great resume to get that job that you want. But we also do outreach into high schools so that we can stimulate more interest in the fields to tackle one of the causes why there is this imbalance is that already early on there is a bias towards which groups go into which direction, right? So yeah, we're constantly looking for volunteers, mentors, supporters, and also mentees, so on the other side. And if you are in an intermediate position and you've already learned a little bit, you can get help, but you can also support the beginners, right? So it can be a giving and taking. So yeah, I would enjoin everyone to join us. Just go to the website and click join, and then you can get started.
Thank you, Filomena. So as you see, for our agenda today, we have set aside a little extra time for Q&A. We really want to engage with you, our guests, and really encourage you to start to think about questions you may have. If you are a little camera shy, then you're welcome to put your question in the Q&A or in the chat. We'll check both. Or if you like, you can also kind of just let me know, and then I will turn your mic on and allow you to ask your questions yourselves. But first, we'll do a panel with our three guests. I want to introduce our three, well, quite impressive guests. Well, one of them you've met, which is Filomena. I asked her not only to host, but also to be on the panel because she's just such an impressive leader in the field. And then we also have Stacy Littlechild and Inyin Liu. And I'm going to read you their shorter bios, because I really want you to get an understanding of who is in this field in San Diego, and sort of where you can go and the opportunities available for you, and the fellow women that are available to you as mentors or people that you can turn to as people who are willing to help sort of give a leg up. So Filomena earned her PhD in 2017 and worked as researcher at Stanford University, where she combined machine learning with quantum simulations. She now works as an AI scientist building leading edge NLP and private AI solutions to automate commercial real estate lending. Filomena is interested in scalable startup and social entrepreneurship and has founded AIPATH to support underrepresented groups find their career path in AI and data science. Stacy Littlechild is the image analysis lead at Reveal Biosciences, where she leverages her background in biology and data science to derive actionable information from gigapixel-sized images of biological tissue, which, by the way, she explained to me earlier is quite fascinating. Prior to her current role in the digital pathology field, Stacy studied cancer and extracellular matrix biology over the 7 years she spent in academia as a pre- and postdoctoral researcher. Stacy holds a PhD in vision science from Cardiff University, where she was both an international scholar and a President's Research Scholar. Her postdoctoral training was with the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. Welcome to Stacy. And then Inyin Liu. She's co-founder and CTO of Exokind. Exokind is founded with mission of building user-focused AI, bringing technology to human-centered products to enhance user experience while maintaining a strong respect for user privacy, which I love that. Previously, Inyin was the head of data science in the AI products group at Intel, where she led a global team of deep learning researchers and data scientists. Prior to working at Intel, Inyin was a principal data scientist at Nirvana Systems, which was acquired by Intel in 2016, where she was responsible for developing deep learning algorithms and frameworks and AI solutions for enterprises. She also previously worked at Qualcomm Research as an ML neuroscience researcher working in deep learning, robotics, and neuromorphic computing. Inyin was named one of the 9 women in Silicon Valley to watch who are leading in AI by Silicon Valley Business Journal, and one of the top 30 women in AI in the US by Rework. She has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Northeastern University, China, and a PhD focused in machine learning from Ohio University. Welcome, ladies. I'm gonna stop my screen share.
Thank you for the intro. Nice to meet everyone.
We'll start with you, Inyin. Why don't you tell us a little about your organization and a little bit more about your role?
Happy to. As you mentioned a little bit during my intro, Exokind is founded with the mission of bringing AI technology closer to user and really connected with the human-centered design and build unique applications for users' benefit while respecting users' interest and privacy. We're building our first product in the travel planning and the leisure space, and the product is gonna be rolled out in the next few weeks, which is a very exciting and busy time for all of us. My role being the CTO of the company is to make sure that we bring and build the cutting edge technology that connects with the user and tells the right story and solves the right problem, and eventually enhance the user experience through all our products and technology. And we were founded a year ago, so it's still a very young startup, and we're based in San Diego. So I guess in normal time, we could be meeting up more often, just all in San Diego, but happy to see everyone here.
Thank you. Stacey, why don't you go next and tell us a little bit more about your current role and your organization?
Sure. So my current title is Image Analysis Manager at Reveal Biosciences. So to kind of understand what I do, you have to understand the type of company that Reveal is, which is a digital pathology company. And so kind of as I was telling these ladies before, Reveal's superpower is getting data from biological tissue, and they're huge, like I said, gigapixel size images that kind of work like Google Maps. So when you log into Google Maps, you might see all of San Diego County. And same with our images, you can see the entire specimen on the slide. But with Google Maps, you can zoom all the way in and see someone's front door, right? And so with our images, you can zoom all the way in and you can see cellular features or subnuclear features, and there's so much data there. And so on the image analysis team, it's our job to extract that data. So we try to understand what the client is interested in. So it could be something like how much fat is in this tissue, or how much of a certain protein is in this tissue, how many immune cells is in this tissue. And so it takes a lot of kind of image processing techniques as well as some machine learning to kind of pull out the data that's of interest for the client. And so that's what we do. We try to quantify the features that are of interest for the client. And so as the lead, I just try to help keep all of that moving. I have my own studies where I use all of these image processing techniques, but also we just kind of think long-term about where the team's headed and how we can make everything more and more scalable and leverage, just like these ladies are doing, AI. So that's what I do now.
Thank you. Filomena, same question.
Yeah, so I'm an AI scientist. I work in a startup where we do automation of commercial real estate lending. So if you want money from a bank because you have a business and you need a property for it, say you want to sort of rent a retail property, right, to Macy's or something like that, right? You want to buy that property and then you want to sort of rent it out, have steady income. It's sort of a kind of investment. And so you go to the bank and you apply for such a loan, right? And the banker then takes a bunch of documents and Googles around and takes all sorts of resources to really understand whether your application is a good deal or not. And with our company, we basically automate that. So it's a lot of natural language processing combined with private AI, because obviously these lending documents are private, they contain sensitive information, even tax returns and things like that. So I implement federated learning system, private AI methods to sort of go into the customer data without revealing any sensitive information, right? So that's what I do. Yeah.
Great. We'll stay with you, Filomena. Can you tell us more in the spirit of today's topic? I want to kind of start to get to the heart of the matter. Tell us about your journey as a woman in data, and feel free to kind of get into like challenges you faced and things and sort of what you've done to overcome those challenges. And you can be as real as you feel comfortable being.
Of course. I think one of the main problems nowadays is not that you face straight up sexism as you would in the 50s, right? But it's more a death by hundreds of paper cuts. So little things, you know, that sort of add up and make your day a little bit more exhausting than it has to be, right? And one of these things, for instance, is how to establish credibility and authority without working twice as hard and without being misperceived as being too aggressive or too pushy, right? Just like that little balance that one has to strike in order to be likable on the one hand, but also sort of push things forward and have credibility. So one specific problem, and I sort of struggle with that because I've worked a lot with very technical people in my past. So when I explain things in terms of statistics, sometimes it gets lost in translation, right? I faced some problems regarding that, or say you build a solution and you're the only one who really understands it. And then someone thinks they have a better solution, right? And they just start arguing with you whether you should do this way or that way. And at some point, you're just the expert, right? And you know how to do it. So yeah, I sort of faced situations like that. And in the past, I've sort of really tried to explain everything and make them, like, bring them up to the expertise level that I have so that they understand why this is like the right way to do it, right? But I think moving forward, I really learned that this is a bad idea, and you don't have to explain yourself as much as one might think. I think you can just like rely on the fact that you are the expert, and it doesn't have to be questioned, and you can just take the high road and be like, okay, if you have more questions, let me know next week when I have time, right? Like, it's not that you don't have to do this education. Obviously, education is part of our technical job, but there is a difference between being curious or questioning. And it's good to question things if you really know more about them, or at least it's more goal oriented. The more you know, the better you can really work on a solution. So yeah, that was a little experience that I think was worth sharing, and maybe some of you had a similar experience. Yeah.
I can kind of jump in here because I think I see kind of a similar theme to what I would say, especially in meetings with peers. I feel like I have to have 10 times more confidence than my peers would to say the same thing and have with the same kind of knowledge base. And so I think that's something that I struggled with, trusting myself enough to use my voice. I kind of, one of the things, sorry, I had a long-term kind of thing here. Yeah, so one of the things I faced in the beginning was confidence. And I think the way that I kind of overcame that was just continuing to kind of push and challenge myself and become more and more familiar, and kind of standing up when I do know something, I own it, rather than waiting for someone else to say the same thing. And I think that's kind of intimidating to do, because you often trust so much when someone is telling you something from a place of confidence, you want to believe them as well. And so I think that's something that I've taken on, is just, you know, kind of emulating that and having that confidence in the things that I know. So that's something that I continually work on, but I've definitely grown from my start in data science.
I think regarding doing the storytelling and be convincing and really push forward your idea, I think maybe it's not uniquely happening to all the women, but for myself, that I have been doing a research through grad school and have been trained to be very detail oriented. When we pay a lot of attention to the detail, sometimes it was a little bit harder to zoom out and to focus on the big picture that could resonate better with your audience. And sometimes adjust how you explain and communicate your points based on the audience, and then tell them differently. Although it's the same technical content, but it can be told in many different ways. So definitely throughout the whole course of my career, I've been learning and also observing how other people communicate and tell the right story to the right audience. That definitely helped me a lot. Another thing that I found really interesting through my career is I came across a lot of unconventional leaders or managers. They have been doing a lot of encouragement. One of the managers I had that he was the first one who told me that if you don't have a big voice, then use your elbow, meaning that you can squeeze your way to the front of the crowd and then tell your story over there. I think a lot of these encouragement and inspiration really helped me to focus on solutions to solve different problems. Often the time, I think for me, knowing that language could be a challenge or confidence could be a challenge, but focus on what could be the actionable things for me to appear more confident or tell my story more convincingly. I think those are some of the solutions I found really useful to me.
That's really great. Thank you. That's very helpful. And you made me think of something with what you said, which is it may not be a woman thing. It may be just either culture or just confidence level. But it seems like from some of the feedback I'm getting, there tends to be certain things that as a group, women are acting differently, and I'm trying to kind of get to the bottom of that and to sort of inspire change in that area. And one of the things I heard was sort of that saying that like men will apply for any job that they think they're qualified for, and a woman will tend to sort of look through it with a fine-tooth comb and look for things that they're not yet that they say a skill set they don't have yet, and sort of they're taking themselves off the table before they even apply. And so I think that's part of the thing that I'm sort of facing with this like lack of being able to get a job of our recent graduates is they'll never get a job if they're not applying, whether a man, woman, or person of color, right? And so maybe you have any of you have some experience where you either applied for a role and you were kind of nervous because you didn't think you were ready, but you did it anyway, or you didn't apply because you thought you weren't ready, or someone pushed you. I've had that where I didn't even think of it, and someone else, a female in my case, sort of pushed me and like forced me into the role and said, "You're gonna try it. I believe in you." And those moments kind of changed the trajectory of my career, and I'm so thankful for them. But can you talk a little bit about that? That's sort of like just getting your foot in the door, and how hard that can be, and what can we sort of talk or encourage or teach the next generation of women that can help inspire change in that area?
Can I jump in and
Okay.
take that answer? I think I didn't consider applying for several jobs, but then recruiters would contact me on LinkedIn, and I would be surprised, like, really? Like, principal data scientist at Apple? Like, I don't have 10 years of experience, right? I was kind of surprised. And I think that really shows that I was self-selecting, right? And then knowing that people do self-select, you can really like just take a step and try to counter work for it, right? So if you apply for jobs that are too good for you, right? And you only like get 10% out of that, get answers of that, then I think you're doing it right. Because what if someone takes you up here? I mean, no one can blame you for having tried. No one is sitting there looking at your resume and be like, no, how could she even apply? No one is thinking that. And if people are actually thinking that, they are thinking that about every other applicants that don't fall into these groups that we are talking about today. They definitely fall into that field. So people get all sorts of ridiculous CVs, and you really don't have to be shy. Just get it out there, try, overshoot. If the bottom 10% of the roles that you are targeting, if you're actually getting those, then at least you weren't self-selecting for less.
This was me. This was 100% me. So I remember, so just before my role at Reveal, I was still a postdoc at the Salk Institute. And so all of my experience up until that point had been lab-based in a biology research lab. And so, you know, there were a number of things throughout my career in science that really, like, now that I am in the data field, made it so clear that this is what I really like to do. Like, for example, I've always worked with microscopes, and that means I've always had images that I needed to analyze for one thing or another. And I would deliberately use some programming language to do my analysis rather than existing software packages, because I thought it was fun, because I liked it and I thought it was a cool skill to have. But I remember, you know, the things that I had experience in were MATLAB and a tiny bit of R. And, you know, Python is a big language in the data science field. And I knew none of it. When I was transitioning out of my postdoc and looking for the next thing, I was on DataCamp, which is a fantastic tool for a beginner, but I felt like such a beginner. And I just thought, how am I ever going to do this fast enough or for good enough quality for a company, for something that's production level? And I think I did the data scientist with Python track, and I was like 3/4 or more, maybe a bit more of the way through with it when I found this, the job advertisement for Reveal. And of course I was nervous. It asked for things like DevOps experience, Python experience, machine learning experience. And I was nervous, but I thought, okay, I know microscopes, I know whole slide imaging. Okay, I know some Python, but I want to learn this. I'm excited about this. You know, I have a lot of enthusiasm for this field. I'm gonna try it. And I got the job. And I think I want to emphasize that to the listeners or whoever's here today, because your path into data science doesn't have to be direct, and you don't have to know everything, but I think you just have to find the pocket, find your pocket in data science, and find, you know, at Reveal, I get to use all of my biology experience, but also my Python experience, and I get to continue to build on that. And there are opportunities like that. So I just don't give up and just try to find, you know, whatever it is your current experience is. Just, there are so many data jobs. I'm sure, like, marrying whatever you know now with data, there will probably be a company or a field that will have a position.
I wanted to point out, earlier on we mentioned a report or data that within the data science field, only I think 20% of data scientists are women. It is a very unfortunate situation, but also looking at the number, we're part of that 22%. And it's also our privilege or responsibility to push the field forward. Often the time I mentioned, we tend to be a little bit more detail oriented. And as Stacy pointed out, she could go on listing all the gaps that she had, and she realized, how do we turn that passion and self-critical thinking into the next step and actually push ourselves forward and push our peers forward and the field forward? There are a lot of things to do that once we utilize all these self-critical thinking into something positive, then we can quickly pick up Python or pick up other tools, while other people probably wouldn't even question themselves about those things, and they wouldn't continue to learn and push themselves. So these are all the advantages that I see from all this self-critical thinking. Although eventually don't let these things to really discourage you. I would think that often the time we have a lot of judgment and self-criticism and emotions. Often the time that we just need our community and friends and network to let us see that there are a lot of emotions and passions, but then turn that into the energy and our responsibility to find the things that we can do next. I think submitting for a job application is literally zero cost to anyone, right? So why not just send out hundreds of applications to all the jobs that you find interesting, and talk to your network and surround yourself by all these ambitious and keep trying people, so that eventually I think there will be a lot of breakthrough as long as we keep trying.
Thank you. On that note, also, I think it helps quite a bit. It has helped me, and I'd love to hear from the three of you, just to have a community of people that I can talk to. My community happens to be female and male, and a good kind of mix, but at times having some strong women as mentors has helped me. And I go out of my way to pay that forward and mentor other women and others in their career. Can you talk about the importance, or maybe you haven't had to have that connection, and if you have connected with others and you have a community, how did you do that? Because I think sometimes that's daunting, especially as we're in the middle of COVID and you have a lack of sort of networking in person. What's your advice for
AIPATH?
Okay. Yeah, AIPATH, Data Science Alliance. But what else? Tell me what else you would advise.
I have been a little bit involved in some of the other organizations and communities. One of it is called womenofai.org. They also group a lot of women working in the AI space and then discuss opportunities and challenges. And also there is another network called Alpha. I recently just signed up. It seems to be like a forum with a lot of women at different stages of their career. And then they have office hours and discuss things. And then just in general, I think women in general that we really enjoy supporting and helping each other. So often the time I follow a lot of AI researchers and data scientists on Twitter or on social network. As soon as I felt like their work is really interesting, I like to learn from them. I just do cold reach out, send them email, send them messages. Some of them eventually became friends and then we get connected. I think overall that I read an article from Fortune last year. They talk about that women tend to really help and support each other. And as long as we try to maintain that relation throughout our career development, there will be a lot of benefit. No matter you're a researcher or a data scientist, or you're startup founders or VCs as funders, there will always be this tight network with each other's support.
And don't forget the other part of that support, which is once you are at an intermediate position or are on your path, right? Support others too. And don't forget about minorities, right? They face a lot of the issues that we face. And yeah, I think creating sort of that community is a two-way path. And it's really nice to help people. It really is fun to give back. It brings in happiness, and you, like yourself, may experience that way too, because you can sort of guide people through their way and have leadership experience this way, mentoring experience this way, right? So that's a great contribution, I think, that everyone here can also do.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. When I was getting started with data science, I was independently studying, kind of self-teaching Python, but I knew that in order to be held accountable to the goals I'd set for myself, I needed to get other people in my circle who were trying to achieve the same thing. And so the way I did that was I joined the group Data Science for Nonprofits, which is a San Diego-based data science group, which is actually where I met Filomena. And not only did I join, but I signed myself up for a project. So Filomena and I did some work on the opioids data set in San Diego County. And so it was really helpful just being around people who were like-minded and being able to discuss with people from different backgrounds, kind of the same concept. Because I think one thing about data science is that everybody has a very different journey into it. I don't think, or at least the majority of people, I don't think, have just been traditionally trained into data science because the programs have only popped up in the last few years. And so like Filomena came from material science and I came from, an optometry school where I did a PhD. And so I think there's something to be learned in those interactions. So, and in addition to like being held accountable to delivering on a project, you're also getting real world experience in how collaborating on a data science project works. So definitely join a group. I don't think there's any shortage of them now, and it helped me immensely, so I'd highly recommend that.
And an important part with those groups is not only they hold you accountable if you do a project with someone else, but networking is also extremely important, right? I don't know what percentage of people really get their job by uploading their CVs somewhere, but I'm sure through referral, you will have a much higher success rate, right? And that will work the better, the bigger your network is. That's simply as that, right? And nowadays it's actually pretty easy. First, when like we started out in this kind of pandemic, I was like, okay, I wanted to start networking in San Diego. How am I going to do that now with the pandemic? But it's actually easier, right? So people are open. If you hit them up on LinkedIn, you can network virtually. You don't have to drive anywhere. You can have your virtual coffee. So go out, connect with people, join groups like AIPATH, Data Science Alliance, or the meetups that they are in San Diego. Text people on LinkedIn, join groups on LinkedIn or other social media, and yeah, get involved.
I just have one other thing to add. I think it can be really intimidating going to networking events because oftentimes people have these amazing backgrounds, like these two ladies here. Like, it would be very intimidating. Yeah, all of us. But yeah, it's just intimidating knowing kind of all the expertise they have. But generally, when you approach someone with a question about their field, they are delighted to talk to you about it because they're really passionate about it and they want to share it with you anyway. So although you might not feel like you're on the same like skill level as them, they're going to be very enthusiastic in talking to you about their expertise or their journey because they get to share something that they love with you.
Yeah, you know, the space of data science and AI is evolving so rapidly. It's actually very hard for anyone to keep up and stay ahead. So I'm sure there are a lot of things that each one of us is researching and working on. Other people were not having any direct experiences. So Stacy earlier talked about that she's looking at all these tools and softwares related to data science. I would love to hear more from you. What have you learned recently? So that I'm sure that everyone can learn from all these conversations.
Yeah, Shrita has a question. Shrita, do you want to pose it to everyone so everyone knows about this question and can hear it?
I just turned your mic on, Ashrita.
Oh yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I guess my question was sort of a follow-up to that. So as the field of data science and AI is constantly, you know, evolving and changing, there's just a bunch of new things that are coming up in the ways that people are solving these problems. So I guess in the three of your opinion, what is the best way to kind of stay up to date with the new technologies and the new tools that are coming up in the industries?
I think a Medium subscription helps, just first principal component, but it also really depends on the field that you're in, right? So maybe you're not really interested in the latest language models, right? Because you're doing something completely else. So you sort of have to subscribe to what's important to your field first, because I think, you know, we have to sort of manage our attention, you know. There's only 24 hours in a day, and just keeping up to date with all the newsletters is just gonna overwhelm you, and we're not gonna at least it's that way for me, you know. I only dedicate so much time to reading stuff. So yeah, just getting news from certain topics. And I think you can get notified if certain like GitHub repositories publish new code and things like that. But then also being in selected communities, someone will typically post things that they find. So it's easier to have all these eyes out there from a community perspective than putting everything on yourself to like look at all the information and understand what's important for you and then actually interact with that news, right? It's one thing to know about something, but it's another thing to really incorporate it in your work and make something out of it, right? And that brings me to the second point, which is once you hit a problem, there's always the easy way to solve it, right? Print your debugging or something, or try to learn it the proper way. And I would encourage everyone to sort of, once you have a new problem, really put in the time to do your research and maybe communicate with whoever you're working with that you're just going to put in this day to really research the best tool to do that. And that's a great opportunity to sort of stay updated on the specific technical thing and actually try things out, implement them, because interacting with the news this way will really sort of make you be more familiar with what's new, right? It's one thing to sort of read a headline, it's a different thing to actually try to incorporate it in your product. So that's a good way to do it too.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that a lot of the Medium publications and blog posts are tremendously useful, especially they come with the code you can actually download and play with them. I think another thing that I found useful is really follow through the stream of research that relevant to you and critical to your work, and find the researchers that you really like or research labs that you find interesting work and follow through their recent update. And then definitely, I think another way is just hang out with other data scientists and ask what they're working on, what they have seen recently, and ask for recommendations. I definitely gather a lot of really good information that way as well.
Yeah, and I would just echo what these leaders are saying. Sometimes it kind of depends on where you're at with data science, on how you want to keep up with what's happening. Like for me, I really love the field of digital pathology. And so there's a digital pathology association that curates articles, publishes articles, and is just a really nice place where I can go and see what's happening in that field. But if you're at the place where you don't know exactly what you want to specialize in, then I 100% would agree with these two, in that blogs are great and Medium is great because they can be kind of more general. And so until you find your specific thing, I would just pay close attention to what you enjoy reading, and then, you know, kind of follow that into what you want to specialize in.
Kayla had a question too. Let me unmute her.
And just while I'm unmuting her, Kayla is one of our AllStar interns here at the Data Science.
Nice.
I guess I'll allow her to talk. Did that work, Kayla?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I had a question. So, I know Yin, you mentioned like sometimes there are microaggressions in the workplace, and it's not always someone going, you know, you're a woman, we don't want to hire you, but it's more of the smaller things. And I guess my question is, what is your sort of advice on how to like stick up for yourself in a way that still comes across as professional?
I think imagining what you would do if you were like a couple levels up, say you were the director of the department, or you were the team leader or something, how would they react? Like, how would you want them to react, right? Would you want them to sort of be angry, consider it too much, you know, or would you want them to think, okay, I have my expertise? Does that person really have a point? If not, I have to move on because people are paying me to sort of create a great product or create that great analysis. And I cannot just like waste my precious mental energy on things like that, right? So I think really just being above that and not, if you like if someone questions you too seriously, you're actually agreeing with them because you sort of give them that platform. You sort of acknowledging that discussing your expertise is appropriate, right? So that that's something that I think it's a good way to improve that part. And there's so many little things, you know, that can happen in a workplace that aren't like enough to really be sort of concerned about, but just like micro annoyances. And we just have to keep on behaving great in regard to them, right? So like if your temperature is too cold, just make it higher every time. And every time they ask, and if it's too cold, then you just ask and make it higher again, right? So like it's, if someone has the right to turn it down 10 times, you have the right to turn it up 10 times. Honestly, like, yeah. And yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. And sort of understanding that this is how it's going to be and expect it may help too. I want to hear what the other have to say to that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to connect with one of the earlier points on where part of the 20% that worked in the space, and we've gone so far to here. And so we cannot let anything else, what's happening now, to discourage us and prevent us from going further. So I think definitely there are a lot of things that can happen to us that are not pleasant, not encouraging, or not inspiring. Turn that into ways that to turn that into opportunities that you can actually make a change and help other women to find the same inspiration as well. I think one thing I was trying to use as an analogy is often the time people talk about, you could be more confident, you could be more convincing. I think often the time that confidence is not something that you can work on as the solution itself. It's like if you wanted to lose weight, don't focus on your weight, but focus on your lifestyle and how much you enjoy working out and all the other aspects. So definitely, I think there will be a lot of things that you can do to help with the confidence. There are a lot of things that you can do to help you to be the most prepared person in every project, in every meeting, and prepare your arguments so that you can be more convincing, no matter how other people react to your communication.
So I have experienced this in the workplace where there was some comment made during a meeting about some of the work I had done. And I think my reaction was for my guard to go up and to not say anything. And looking back, I wish that I would have had the kind of the like learner's mindset to open up the conversation and kind of discuss what the issue was rather than kind of shutting down. And so I think you can open up the door for a conversation by saying, so how would you have done it? Oh, that's interesting. Do you have a different technique? And just make it a learning opportunity rather than you know, me, I immediately felt really uncomfortable and just, I didn't want to talk about it because I felt really embarrassed, but actually it was such a good opportunity to have a conversation with other people in the room where they could learn something too. So I guess that would be my recommendation, is just frame your mindset as a learner's mindset where you can just talk and kind of learn from the situation.
I love that. That's really great advice. Turn it into a conversation. The person might not even realize they're microaggressing, right? And so you kind of open that door for them to realize that as well. Thank you, ladies. We have only a couple minutes left, and I really appreciate all the questions coming in and the activity on the chat. As a final question, just not to put too much pressure on you, but if you can just impart one sort of piece of advice for the women, or just anyone participating, attending this panel. Why don't I'm going to give you a couple minutes total for the three of you to please just give us your parting wisdom for this panel.
So my biggest piece of advice would be, while you're learning and while you're taking on all of these concepts, pay close attention to the thing that you really enjoy most. Because being a data scientist doesn't mean being able to do all of data science. It means finding the thing that you really enjoy about the field and making that your path. Of course, understanding the other parts and other components of data science is important, but you can kind of expand a sliver of data science into a career. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
I remember earlier when he talked about the Data Science Alliance, and the data science is all about problem solving. I wanted to mention that that is exactly my understanding about the field as well. Often the time is about problem solving and about creative problem solving. So all of us, while we still have a lot to learn, a lot to pick up, there are always this tremendous talent from the community that really focus on detail, focus on the right problem to solve, and find the tools to solve your problem. That will make a data scientist really unique, that can really fulfill a lot of the potentials that data science can deliver. As long as that someone focus on the problem solving part, I'm sure that we can pick up the skill and solve a lot of really great problems for our end users.
I think that going into data science is not only about the technical things, it's about really, as Stacy said, really finding your interest, and then within your interest, finding your role. And there's so much more that comes with that role than knowing how to calculate the expected value of this Markov chain or something like that. There is like domain expertise, right? Like really understanding the problem, as Yin said, and then using the technical tools that are out there with the resources you have to sort of solve that problem. And then for me, I'm still learning on this one, communication, communication, communication. Really like telling those stories, know who is like in front of you. Is this person going to know about hypothesis testing or not? Because if not, there's no chance you're going to talk about, you know, percentages and accuracies and whatnot. Like you have to like break it down much better. And if it's a recruiter, right, like recruiters aren't technical people, so you have to break it down for them. Once you are talking to a technical person, then you can, you know, get into the weeds and, you know, live out your mathematical passion. Yeah, but really understanding that distinction and having like a strategy on how to explain things to a non-technical audience, I think is also really important. And what always helps me when in doubt, like what would a guy do? Like what would a male white person do in this situation? It's like sort of a Occam's razor, right? Like that question really helps in all sorts of situations. What would he do when he would be applying to jobs? What would he do when he has this sort of like question or microaggression? What would he do like when applying for a raise, for a promotion, for that leadership position, right? So yeah, I think that helps too.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone who attended. It's just past the hour. Really appreciate you spending the time with us. Thank you to our panelists. That was so interesting, engaging, and really appreciate your time. Thank you to AIPATH for partnering with Data Science Alliance on this really great data stories episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and sign up
Thank
today.
you. Nice meeting you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.